Hello, welcome back to Vidorama, where we remember the VHS releases of the past in graphic detail. My name's Admiral Jones and I'm an artist, and each month on this channel I paint a tribute to a movie that we rented on video back in the day. This month, this very hot month, is a Patreon pick month, where one of my kind Patreon supporters gets to tell me which movie I paint for the channel. And this month's movie has been selected by Beth Jones. And she selected The Horror of Party Beach, written, produced and directed by Del Tenney and released in 1964. As you can see, I prepared the drawing beforehand and it's all set for painting. Beth isn't just a loyal supporter of the channel, she's also my wife. We've been together now for 16 years and married for 9 of those, and she supported me throughout. Every Valentine's Day we watch The Horror of Party Beach. Why? We can't remember, but we do so anyway. And so this movie is very dear and special to her, so I'm not at all surprised that she picked this one. So she wants The Horror of Party Beach, that's what she gets. I better get on and paint it actually before my paint dries. Colours I'm using today are titanium white, Mars black, cadmium orange and cadmium yellow. Poor ventilation and studio lights aside, we are currently experiencing the hottest day on record outside, so I'm not kidding when I tell you that my paint might dry out. But anyway, the movie's plot for those who haven't seen it. Radioactive waste is dumped into the ocean and it turns the remains of shipwrecked victims into mutants. They emerge from the sea and begin to feed on the populace. They cause all manner of carnage, and so Hank Green, his boss Dr. Gavin and his daughter Elaine try to identify what the creatures actually are and how to stop them. Promoted as the first horror musical, it was filmed over a 2-week period in 1963 on a budget of $50,000 at West Beach, Stamford, Connecticut, and is often cited as a bad movie, often finding itself on those tiresome worst movies ever made lists. But I don't agree. This film has everything. Monsters, bikinis, blood, violence, beach parties, dancing, biker gangs, romance, fights and several rock and roll performances by the Delaires. Yeah, it's cheap, but it was created to entertain, and it does just that. To be honest, I can't get behind movie hate. I've never made a movie, so who am I to say it's bad? I'm of the opinion that when you take into account the logistics and just how difficult it is to make a movie, we should celebrate that someone made it happen and not criticise. There's already enough negativity in the world. Well, that's my opinion anyway. This movie crawled out of the post-Black Lagoon era and no doubt spawned such movies as Humanoids from the Deep. And the man that made it all happen was Mr. Del Tenney, who was born in Mason City, Iowa in 1930. His parents moved to California to help with the war effort when he was 12, and he attended Los Angeles City and State College, and this was where he developed an interest in the theatre. He worked as an uncredited movie extra on Stalag 17 and The Wild Ones in 1953. Before moving to New York in 1954, where he worked as an off-Broadway actor. He married fellow stage actor Margot Hartman, and they moved to Connecticut. Having all but given up on acting in movies, he decided to work behind the camera instead and worked on exploitation movies. He worked as an assistant director on Satan in High Heels in 1962 and The Orgy at Little's Place in 1963. And then that's when the magic really happened. He started to work on B-movie horror movies. Along with his wife, he co-wrote Violent Midnight, later retitled Psychomania, which was loosely based on the Paul Gene Weldon case in 1946, which happened at the college that Hartman attended. Hartman also starred in the movie, and although Tenney only received a producer credit, it has been said that he also co-directed the movie, which went on to be a hit. During its release, Mr. Alan Island, whose family owned a chain of drive-in theatres in Albany, New York, approached Tenney and asked if he would be interested in making a double feature for his drive-ins. He offered to put up $50,000 and provide the movie's titles and press books if Tenney contributed the same amount and wrote and directed the movies. He agreed. The movie titles that Island gave him were The Curse of the Living Corpse and Invasion of the Zombies. Curious if he could actually make both movies back to back, Tenney started work on Curse of the Living Corpse first, and it was filmed over a 2-week period on his father-in-law's estate. The movie starred both Margot Hartman and Roy Scheider, making his screen debut. Tenney showed a preview of Curse of the Living Corpse to 20th Century Fox. Impressed by what they had seen, they told him that if the second film was as good, they would be interested in distributing them. Tenney had been working on the script for Invasion of the Zombies, which would later be retitled The Horror of Party Beach, while he was working on The Curse of the Living Corpse. He wanted this movie to be part horror, part beach movie, and despite not being entirely sure that the idea would work, he started on what would be the biggest production of his career. Everyone remembers the monsters and the interesting idea to have the sea creatures have hot dogs in their mouths instead of fangs. This was down to the movie's art director Robert Robertos, who had already worked on The Living Corpse. It's interesting to note that the movie had an accompanying magazine that used stills from the movie, and even they painted out the hot dogs and added fangs. 3 creature suits were created for the movie, and they were all made of rubber, and the actors had eye holes in the neck of the suit. This lady, who played Tina, the first victim in the movie, was Marilyn Clark, who would later go on to appear in an episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker in 1974 and Smokey and the Good Time Outlaws in 1978. The movie has quite a few kills to it, in all fairness, quite a high body count, but as it was all shot in black and white, they used Bosco chocolate syrup as blood. As it was a black and white movie, I thought I would have the background of the painting also be in black and white, as it helps to contrast the figures. I love these monsters. The design is so unique. They look like a cross between a creature from the Black Lagoon and a giant chicken. I enjoy painting them. We've not had a Vidorama competition for a while. If you would like to win your very own glow-in-the-dark Horror Party Beach sticker, subscribe to the channel, go to the comment section and tell me what is it that they use to defeat the creatures in the Horror Party Beach. You've got until the 1st of October, that's when it will close, and I will then pick 5 names at random and send out a sticker. Okay? Good luck! Let's see who's actually paying attention and not just skipping to the end to see the finished painting. Anyway, one of the highlights of this movie is its soundtrack provided by Paterson, New Jersey rock band The Del Airs, which comprised of lead singer guitarist Ronnie Linares along with bassist Gary Robert Jones, guitarist Bobby Osborne and drummer John Becker. They performed 6 songs in this movie, some of which were written for the film. Despite not being able to play, inspired by Elvis Presley, Linares wanted a guitar, and after he graduated grammar school in 1957 his father bought him one, and he practiced alongside his best friend John Becker, who had started playing the drums at this point. They called themselves Ronnie and Johnny, and they played various school dances, and they won the 1959 high school talent show. Then Linares met a 3-piece band called the Del Airs in 1960. My skull! Gary Jones invited Linares up to play the guitar with them, and he ended up joining the band and playing lead before persuading them to ditch their current drummer for John Becker. They cut their first demo disc, Berserk, and were playing alongside the Paramounts when they met their sax player, Bobby Osborne, who then started playing sax with them, and he soon joined the Del Airs. They were performing at various venues around New Jersey when they met Del Tenney, who approached them and asked them if they'd like to be in the movie. It's a staple of any Tenney movie to feature family, friends and people he had worked with on stage. Even he appears in this movie playing the gas attendant, and I'm sure he was the guy that picks up the girls that finish their late shift at the store. Although his wife didn't appear in this movie, their children did, playing the kids who are watching the news report about the creatures on TV. Elaine was played by Alice Lyon, who was a former college friend of Hartman. Lyon was the daughter of Foreign Service Officer Cecil B. Lyon, who served as a United States ambassador to Chile and later Sri Lanka. She spoke 5 languages, painted, and once worked for the CIA and sold real estate, and apparently didn't know that she'd been dubbed in the movie until the premiere of the film. Alice Lyon died aged 68 in 2003. By all accounts, making this film was a fun experience, and with it in the can, Tenney then took the movies to 20th Century Fox along with one of the monster costumes. The intention being to have the monster jump out and scare everyone during the meeting. However, one of them had walked in on the actor putting on his costume in the bathroom. Thankfully, the man, although startled, thought it was hilarious and they loved the movies, and they made good on their promise to release both of them as a double feature across the country in a $1 million deal. Both movies premiered at the Paramount Theatre, with the cast and crew in attendance, including the Delaires who signed autographs, and it went on to play across the country, featuring a disclaimer that stated that no one would be admitted to the film unless they presented their Fright release that released the theatre from all responsibility should death by fright occur. It was a great gimmick. The reviews varied, but Tenney didn't care. He had set out to make a fun movie that he hoped would make some money, and he achieved just that. And Horror Party Beach was to be Tenney's most successful movie, outselling all the major studio pictures at the drive-in. Following on from his success, Tenney went on to write and direct and produce a fourth film, Zombies, also known as Zombie Bloodbath or Voodoo Bloodbath. However, the movie was not picked up by a distributor, and so it was shelved for 7 years before it was retitled I Eat Your Skin and released as a double feature with I Drink Your Blood in 1971. By the 70s, he and his wife had all but left the movie business. They co-funded the Hartman Theatre in Stamford, Connecticut in 1975. And they would renovate and revive theatres and then produce and star in various productions throughout New England. Having relocated to Florida, he became involved in real estate, building spec homes and condominiums. In the 90s, he and Hartman formed Delmar Productions, writing, producing and directing movies again, releasing The Clean and Narrow in 1999, Do You Want to Know a Secret in 2001 and Descendant in 2003. But he never really achieved the same response as he did in the early 60s, and so he remained in real estate, serving as a president and co-executive director of the First Stamford Corporation until his death in 2013. One of the things that Tenney liked about movies was, whereas a stage show would play and then close and be just a memory, he felt that the movies allowed his work to live on and be seen again and again. And he was right. There is always a new audience out there waiting to discover it. Like in 1982 when a clip of it featured in It Came From Hollywood, and of course when it featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000 in 1997. It seems that Del Tenney's movie about weird atomic beasts who live off human blood refuses to die. I'll just sign it and we'll call it done. Thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed your company and I hope you've enjoyed watching me paint my tributes to the Horror Party Beach. If so, let me know what you think in the comments. I love reading them. And please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big thank you to my darling wife Beth for all her kindness and support and for picking this month's movie. As I said, this movie is very precious to us, so to be able to add it to the lineup has been a delight. If you'd like to follow her example and help the channel out and have your say in which movie I paint next, you'll find a link in the description to the Vidorama Video Club. All sorts of goodies to be had there, and you also get a warm fuzzy feeling in knowing that you're helping to feed an artist. Incidentally, I've added an Amazon wish list to the description now, so if you want to buy me a paintbrush or a pen, you can. Thank you again for joining me, and until next time, good night out there, whatever you are.